Great to catch up with Ian Castleberry with Barrett Sports Media, and we got a lot to run down with Ian for sure in the baseball world. Ian, so good to have you back, man. Hope you had a great weekend.
I did. A very nice weekend.
And, dude, we may ask you at the end for your Carolina-Kansas pick tonight, if that's okay.
That's good. I over the weekend, I felt kind of bad that I was kind of like, I don't care. But, I was thinking, dude, where do you live? You should.
Had to talk yourself into watching the game. Come on, man.
Oh, I'm glad I did.
Oh my God. Yeah, man. Good call on your part, for sure. So we'll get your prediction for Kansas, North Carolina tonight. But Ian, meanwhile, the Mets 1-2 starters, Jacob deGrom and, of course, Max Scherzer. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. He signed with the Mets. Really the best 1-2 punch in baseball. But are those arms having some issues, and how big a concern is that for Mets fans and brass?
It should be a big concern. Jacob deGrom, especially with a shoulder injury, kind of an undetermined length of time that he'll be out beginning the season on the injured list. If the Mets were going to win the National League East or challenge for a wild card, it was going to be because they had the top two starters, certainly in the division, if not all of Major League Baseball, with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. So deGrom being hurt, and now Max Scherzer also having some issues. I don't know if you guys probably weren't paying attention to this, but are you familiar with the fact that Major League Baseball is going to have some games on Apple TV this year, and those broadcasts will be exclusive to Apple TV? And Mets fans were just freaking out because the second game of the Mets season, where Max Scherzer's first scheduled start for the Mets, his debut, was going to be on Apple TV and not the usual SNY or national telecast. So people were going to have to sign up for Apple TV if they wanted to see Max Scherzer. But now there are some bigger problems to consider here.
Oh, my goodness. When could Scherzer return? deGrom, that could be a while, but how about Scherzer?
He could. He's going to throw a bullpen session. So there is some thought that maybe he could still pitch the opener on Thursday, but I think it's more likely that he's going to be pushed back to maybe Saturday or Sunday. This isn't as serious, but anytime you hear of some trouble this early in the season, it's a hamstring for Scherzer. And I think, we might see a lot of injuries this season because of the lockout and, the players, especially pitchers, they couldn't work out at facilities. They could work out privately. Presumably they stayed in shape, but they weren't going at it like they would be if it was spring training. And then you had this ramped up 3-week spring training. I think we're starting to see, especially with the Mets here, that schedule could be messing up some players.
Oh, boy. Strap in. Here we go, Coach, for sure. Ian Castleberry joins us on the D.C. Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. And, of course, we appreciate Ian with Barrett Sports Media and our baseball update. Braves fans listening to this one. Now, Justin Upton, Ian, was on the rise when he signed a $75 million deal with the Angels back in 2017 when he was acquired from the Tigers. But he's now been designated for assignment by the team, who still owe Justin Upton, by the way, the former Brave, $28 million. That's great money when you don't have to earn it, I suppose. But, Ian, where did it go wrong for Upton? Even as a Braves follower, he and his brother had such great potential.
Yeah, Justin Upton, his skills are just declining. 34 years old, he's losing some bat speed. He's having trouble staying healthy. He batted .211 last season, a .705 OPS, 17 home runs. The year before that, granted it was a shortened COVID season, but still batted just .204. In 5 seasons with the Angels, his average is .232 over 5 seasons. He's never hit higher than .257 with the Angels. And I think the Angels, even though they owe him a bunch of money for this season, I think they looked at their lineup and they said, we got some spectacular young outfielders, Joe Adell, Brandon Marsh, and, of course, Mike Trout hopefully comes back healthy this season. So I think the Angels just looked at that and said, you can get better production with those 3. And even though we owe Justin Upton all this money, let's just call it a sunk cost and cut ties here.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is tough to hear, man. Remember him, Charlie, back?
Yes.
He was...
He and his brother in the outfield for the Braves. He felt
Man, felt like that was this guy.
$28 million is a lot to pay for a minor leaguer now.
For coming up short. God, why can't I get paid for not doing the job that I was paid for? Gosh darn it. Anyway, as Ian Castleberry joins the Wise Guys, of course, Barrett Sports Media, with us Mondays for our Major League Baseball update. So this was an interesting trade, Ian, between the Dodgers and the White Sox. A.J. Pollock of the Dodgers heading to the Windy City. Well, Craig Kimbrel of the White Sox heading to the West Coast. Obviously, you've got a great closer for the Dodgers, just adding to that pitching staff and especially to that bullpen. But the loss of Pollock to the Dodgers, that could be big, but they're loaded, Ian. So which team do you think got the better of the deal?
I mean, if you're looking at who got the better player, I think almost every time, if you could trade a reliever for an everyday player, somebody who's going to pitch maybe 70 games at best versus somebody who could be in the lineup for 150 games. And A.J. Pollock is coming off his best season with the Dodgers. So I think the White Sox got the better end of this trade. Pollock will be the regular left fielder, batted .297 last year with 21 homers. He's got speed, he's got defense, he's got power. He's going to be a big boost to that White Sox lineup. But Kimbrel is a great fit for the Dodgers. And in terms of money, it's a wash. Pollock is owed $10 million this year, and I think a $5 million option for the 2023. Kimbrel set to make $16 million, which is the exact amount Kenley Jansen got from the Atlanta Braves going over there to sign. So it's kind of a wash in terms of the money. Now they definitely have a solid closer, a designated closer like they had with Kenley Jansen. And Kimbrel will close for the Dodgers because he's one of those relievers who he's really good when he's in the ninth inning, but if you put him in a different role, seventh inning role, eighth inning role, he's not as good. Kimbrel was lights out for the Cubs in the first half of last season as their closer. When he was traded to the White Sox to be a setup reliever, he just wasn't nearly as good. So it's a good situation for the Dodgers. Usually I would say you never trade an everyday player for a closer like this, but for the Dodgers who have depth, this allows them to use Blake Trinan and Brosdar Graterol in different situations, because even though you're the closer, the ninth inning isn't always the most important late inning situation, right? It could be, in the seventh inning, there's 2 on and 1 out, and you need somebody to come in and get those tough outs. Now the Dodgers have that flexibility in their bullpen. I think the Braves were looking at a similar situation when they signed Kenley Jansen, so Will Smith could be used in those high leverage situations. But I would rather have Pollock if I was running a Major League Baseball team.
All right, that's why we asked the questions there, Charlie, right?
I always think pitcher for player, the Milt Pappas Frank Robinson trade always pops up to me. Here you give one team a pitcher, the other team gets an MVP kind of play, everyday player.
Or the Cubs sending Lou Brock to the Cardinals for Ernie Broglio back in 1964. I don't know what Broglio's doing this day. He's probably not with us. I know Lou Brock is not, but Lou Brock went on to become the all-time leading base stealer when he retired, and of course a Hall of Famer. Just speaking of those trades, now as baseball gets underway on Thursday, Ian, what we're going to do is come back next Monday and we'll get your National League division picks, but we still have a couple of divisions in the American League I'd love to get your take on. First things first, the NL Central, home of your Detroit Tigers.
I think the Tigers could finish third this year. We're very excited. They're calling up Spencer Torkelson, the number 1 draft pick 2 years ago. He's going to be their first baseman. Very excited to see what he can do. They added Javier Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez in the offseason, but I still think they're going to finish third. They'll finish over 500, maybe be on the fringes of the wild card race. But we just talked about the White Sox. I think they're the favorite in the AL Central, adding A.J. Pollock. Their pitching staff, they maybe could use another starter after losing Carlos Rodon to the Giants, but I think they have enough to stay ahead of the Twins. For the Twins, they added Carlos Correa, they added Gary Sanchez, made a trade for Sonny Gray. But to me, the Twins have the look of a team that everything has to go right. They need most people to stay healthy. They need everybody to produce to expectations, and if they don't get that, I don't think they'll catch the White Sox in the AL Central.
All right, there you have it. Now, Ian Castleberry, what many people would say is the most competitive division, if you take out the Baltimore Orioles, the American League East.
I like the Blue Jays in the American League East. I think, they had that outstanding lineup led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but their pitching rotation, they added Kevin Gausman in the offseason. They made that trade last year for Jose Barrios. They have Hyun-Jin Ryu. I like the Blue Jays mostly because of their pitching, but I think the Rays are going to be right there. I and everybody else always overlooks the Rays, right? And they'll be competitive. They have an excellent starting rotation as well. So I think it's going to be a Blue Jays and Rays. And then the Yankees and the Red Sox. The Yankees, of course, the expectations are for them to finish in the top two for a wild card spot or a division title. But I just don't think the Yankees have the starting pitching to compete with the Jays and the Rays in the AL East. And with the Red Sox, they didn't, until they signed Trevor Story, they had a pretty lackluster offseason. And I think it's really going to come down to whether or not Chris Sale is healthy for the Red Sox. If they get Chris Sale at his Cy Young best, and he can win 18 to 20 games, be an ace for them, I think that could be the difference in the Red Sox finishing ahead of the Yankees. But, yeah, I think the Red Sox probably finish fourth. And the easiest prediction, of course, in the AL East is that the Baltimore Orioles will finish last.
Yeah, there you go, man, for sure.
It's so hard to believe you're picking AL East and the Yankees and the Red Sox are not even in the top two. No. Holy cow.
And
I had to kind of look at that too, and I wrote it down. I'm like, hey, sure you want to go with this? But I really do think, I just think it comes down to pitching for those two teams, and I think the Blue Jays and the Rays are better there.
Hey, Hoser, take off. Ian's picking the Jays to win the East. Nice. All right, Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. I know it's our Major League Baseball update, but we got Carolina, Kansas tonight for the men's college basketball national championship. All right, Ian, Carolina coming off an emotionally, I don't know, want to say devastating, but an incredibly emotional win. Can they hold it up tonight mentally and physically?
Yeah, normally I would say Carolina's due for a letdown, but I think eyes are on the prize here. Even though they beat Duke on Saturday, they know that won't mean quite as much if they don't finish this off with a national title. And until, this might be recency bias, but until Saturday, I would have thought Kansas would win against either Carolina or Duke, because I just thought that they could play more at a higher tempo and run either team off the floor. But I think Carolina's size, with Baycott and Davis is playing so well at guard, Caleb Love, I think they have the firepower to outlast Kansas tonight. I do think Carolina's going to win.
Wow. All right.
That makes me feel better with my pick if I'm picking the same thing as Ian is.
Well, that's nice because Ian's probably the only one not.
Sorry, I got a long record that shows you should pick other
Well, the first step is admitting it, so there you go. Ian, you're the best, buddy. Appreciate you as always playing along, and have a great rest of the day.
Okay, take care, guys. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Thanks, Ian, so much. Ian Castleberry with Barrett Sports Media.